Hello everybody.
Hello.
And welcome along to the main stage here at Soccerex. We apologise for the delay. I was on a breaking transfer news panel on the other stage. My name is Ben Jacobs. I'm a sports broadcaster and Premier League commentator. Alongside me is Bernd Reichart, who is the CEO of A22 Sports Management. They are the promoters of the European Super League. And for the next half an hour or so, we're going to be discussing the future of the European Super League. What's next for the project? Is it going to go from on paper to a reality? What are some of the challenges? And there's a big court case as well at the European Court of Justice that will have a ruling on December the 21st, which will add clarity as to what the next steps are on the project. So Bernd, it's great to chat to you. And I've given a basic outline there, but maybe some that have seen European Super League in the news from the original launch in April 2021 won't quite know who A22 are. So give us a bit of an overview as to who are A22 Sports Management and how you specifically tie into the Super League project.
Well, A22 is a sports promoting agency which was founded around the communication of the Super League proposal. For the unique purpose to manage and to promote the project in terms of legal aspects, economic aspects, competition aspects. So it's a sport promoting agency which got its mandate from the European Super League company, which is the company those 12 clubs founded back then. I joined A22 about a year ago when the court case was developing, and those clubs had the responsibility to say, okay, if the status quo is changing on the back of a court case which evolved of our proposal, we want to inform clubs and stakeholders about what's at stake and how change could be induced by a decision of the European Court of Justice. And that's why I joined.
So when we look at who backs A22, there are clear connections with Real Madrid and Barcelona. Can you shed any clarity as to whether A22 is directly run or funded by those clubs, or is it just an association?
So this is our main and one and only client. The main purpose of A22 is promote and develop the European Super League project, and the European Super League company is our client, and so they are mandating us in order to do the work which we're trying to do, which in the core of the last 12 months had been introducing a dialogue with football stakeholders, with clubs, with players associations, with political stakeholders, in order to explain ourselves better and also explain how the project evolved in main key aspects. The main center of criticism 2 years ago was on permanent membership, which was perceived as a non-compatible with the football tradition. So we took that off the table. We are talking now about and promoting an open and meritocratic competition, and that is the main goal of A22 and why we are out there.
So the format has changed now based directly on the fallout from the original launch in April 2021?
Well, of course it was initially always a proposal made to UEFA. UEFA decided, as you can see in the Apple documentary, because I saw Eddie Q here before, that we want to go to war against it. So they didn't actually make up their mind about the proposal or try to have a constructive dialogue on it. But it was also always able to adapt itself. And as a matter of fact, we are now talking about an open meritocratic league system of European top clubs with a European ambition in different divisions, and once we get the green light from the ECJ and we have some legal certainty whether or not we are allowed to open a competition in the market, we will do so, and we will explain the competitions in more detail.
Let's go back to the original launch. It happened around midnight. Within 48 hours, a range of clubs had pulled out, including all of those from the Premier League. What are your learnings from those 48 or 72 hours? I know it was before you joined the company.
Yeah, of course, but back then it was within the constraints of the FIFA statutes. You know, how do you make that suggestion and actually not risk being expelled from all European competitions immediately? Or your players have been threatened not to play the World Cup in Qatar. In that surroundings, they had to try to be legally safe making a proposition to UEFA. Now the situation has changed to the extent that if the legal landscape is changing and some of the statutes who allow UEFA to sanction clubs who debate or develop such a competitive league, if that changes and we can all go out in the open, breathe and defend the interests of the clubs and their members, it will be much easier. That's why it's easier now to be transparent, to explain ourselves, but also be respectful with the 15 judges who will mark and design the landscape of the competition in Europe and whether or not football also is able to access to the fundamental freedoms of the European Union.
So you think that fear factor and a lack of legal mandates were two big things that resulted in the original Super League failing?
It resulted in the necessity to go out at, 12 o'clock in the night and try to be legally compliant. There were also stakeholders involved who had still another hat in the system of UEFA ECA, so that was definitely complicating things. And now it's much easier for us to try to develop it and be transparent once we have a ruling ahead of us and we apply and adjust our proposal to clubs and to the football stakeholders after a new legal certainty if that evolves.
So if we talk about the ruling in a little bit of detail, A22 are a co-claimant. It's at the European Court of Justice, and in very simple terms, it's an anti-competition case that could give the European Super League a mandate and therefore remove that fear factor, allowing, at least in your opinion, clubs to come out of the woodwork.
Yeah, well, it will. It's access under scrutiny is the various conflicts of interest UEFA is having as being the regulator of the game, being the gatekeeper, and being the sole commercial operator. So can a monopolist as a commercial operator use its sanctioning power as a regulator to close the market? That is the main idea of the court case. So we believe that UEFA cannot be the one who approves who is accessing the marketplace or not, because they are obviously in a conflict of interest being the sole operator. What we propose is that the European club competition are run and governed by the clubs themselves, just as in any other European league, in the Premier League, in La Liga, in the Serie A, in the DFL. It's a club organization who is running and commercially organizing the competition in every European league, except on a European level, where still UEFA is the sole commercial operator and the regulator and the gatekeeper and judge and party.
There's already been a non-binding recommendation, but 15 judges will rule on December the 21st. We'll come into the ruling that is still forthcoming a little bit later this year. But the non-binding recommendation, which was last December, upheld the position of FIFA and UEFA. What's your ruling of the significance of that?
Well, the non-binding recommendation already stated that UEFA is actually holding a monopoly and that it have a special responsibility. That was the term used, a special responsibility to not unduly close the market to competitions. So that UEFA has to have an authorization process which is transparent and non-discriminatory, which is not in place as of today. So if this would be the ruling, and the 15 judges would follow that non-binding recommendation by the Avocat General, initiatives like ours would be able to present an authorization process to UEFA, which is already a big step forward.
The ruling, as I understand it, has been done privately and is being translated into different languages. Have you got any indication yet as to what it may say?
No. Honestly, they were very, very, very professional. I respect and trust in the independence of the court. They took their time to assess it. It's in the Grand Chamber. It's not appealable. It's like the highest chamber of European law. They grouped 3 cases of sport rulings which they had on their desk, 2 against UEFA, 1 the famous ISU case. So they are looking at it holistically, and they will make a resolution cross-referencing the 3 cases, and we just have to wait and respect their decision.
Is it likely to be win or lose, or do you expect there to be some kind of legal grey area?
Well, legal and grey area are always going together, I believe. I'm not a lawyer, but it's hard to envisage that it's going to be binary and 0 or 1. But in any case, we will continue to adapt us to the case. We will continue to listen what clubs really want, in which way they want to go. And there are a lot of clubs who think that football is traveling in the wrong direction, with domestic leagues not being able to generate the necessary funds in order to be competitive, losing talents to other markets. They are eager to have more, or a more meaningful European path, but actually the system of Champions League with annual qualification makes it particularly difficult to really build on that. So being dependent on a smaller TV market domestically makes it difficult to retain talent. And so they want more Europe, and we try to design a competition where more visibility of a European competition in a league structure, accessible from the domestic leagues, is giving them to fulfill the ambition to grow on the back of a European reliable competition.
If you either win or there's enough in the ruling that is positive, what's the next step heading into 2024, or time frame for a European Super League?
If it's positive or if it's not positive?
If it's positive.
Okay. No, well, I think the stakeholders we spoke over this last year, first, they, and mainly clubs, they deserve a lot of concrete answers which depend a little bit on the court case. So they want to know, what is your format and your competition format exactly, the women's game, the men's competition, how do you access, what are your economics, what is your revenue model, how do you think about distributing it and really opening up to the fan community and global markets. Those are the questions which we would like to answer once we have this legal certainty and this green light. So we're working on that, and definitely then there will be a lot of effort in trying to explain us better than we did in the past, and trying to hit the spot where clubs believe that there is an opportunity for them.
What is the earliest time frame the European Super League could start?
That's really a tricky question if I don't have the ruling and the conditions, because we also believe that even the churches can define criteria of what do you have to comply in order to be able to enter into approval process. Openness, solidarity with grassroots sports, complying with European values and European jurisdiction. All those criteria I would have to know in order to make a timeline. We will not hurry into anything. We want this to be the biggest competition of the best teams facing each other week after week in an exciting competition, who is actually stepping up the game of the Champions League, because I believe, and a lot of people believe, that during the group stage, whether or not it's now or in the Swiss system in the future, the European competitions are not living up to their potential.
I have to ask you the flip question as well. If the ruling goes against you, do you accept the European Super League project is over?
No, I accept the ruling, and we will see how we adapt to the ruling and how we comply with it. But the problems of European club football and the distortion and the lack of competitiveness, that's not going to go away. So we will continue to try to contribute with a solution and trying to suggest innovation, because I think the last innovation was the foundation of the Champions League almost 30 years ago. So I think there is a need for better enforcement of financial fair play rules. There's a need for trying to counter the loss of young demographics who less and less watch 90-minute football games. But they are here, they are watching. If you have the best teams of the best engage in each other in really relevant, consequential matches. So we have to give them, or to accept that demand by younger audience, I think, if we want to continue having football being the only true global phenomenon.
You speak about connectivity. How does, in theory, a European Super League coexist with the congested fixture calendar, with the expanded Champions League, with an expanded Club World Cup, with an expanded World Cup? even if you get a legal mandate, if
No.
there's connectivity, how does that work?
No, it's an alternative to European club competition currently run by the UEFA. So our project will come alive on the match days, or on the calendars and the match days which currently are occupied by the UEFA Champions League and the Europa League. We don't want more games and more games. We want better games of more intensity and more relevance. And it's, as you said, it's funny if you are funny or sad, whatever you want. If you are a governing body and you proclaim yourself that you are a governing body, you can just drop a new format in the Club World Cup of 30-something clubs playing each other. But if you are actually the clubs who run all the entrepreneurial risk of paying players, paying infrastructures, running a stadium, and they make a proposal for a new competition, you're expelled, you're threatened, and you're sanctioned. So that is an unfortunate difference between the governing body who rules about the game and the clubs who don't have a say in their economic future regarding European competitions.
But clubs would have to pick Champions League or Super League, is that what you're saying?
If the ruling would make would enable UEFA to continue to be the regulator and the commercial operator, but open the market to third parties, that could be one scenario, not a desired one.
I know you've engaged with a variety of stakeholders, including in NEOM, where you thought you were meeting with President Seferin and about 35 others turned up, including Nasser Al-Khalifi. How have you dealt with the criticism? Because there'll be plenty in this audience, there'll be plenty of clubs, there'll be plenty of stakeholders that, regardless of whether the project makes sense on paper or a legal mandate, still don't trust the project.
Yeah, we have to recover credibility, and I see that in my daily business of talking to people. This was perceived as elite are doing their own thing and are kind of leaving the family. That's not true. It was never a breakaway league. They were always playing their domestic leagues anyway. It was a proposal for an alternative European club competition. So yeah, restoring the credibility, make sure that we are really thinking about more than just the interests of 12 clubs is challenging. And in Lyon, yeah, it was still an opportunity to explain us to 35 important stakeholders, even if it felt a little bit like an ambush. But that's how you would expect a monopoly to react. You know, it was a demonstration of power. Here we are. We have everything under control. No innovation needed, no external suggestion needed. Clubs sit on the back bench. In the executive committee there are 20 members but only 2 club representatives. That's how it is, and we don't want you. So that was the message. Still, you have to differentiate. There have been people in the room who, before, after, and during the session, engaged in a very constructive and productive way, and who felt also quite bad about the setup of that famous meeting.
How many clubs do you feel might come out the woodwork and support this project if you get that legal mandate? Can you put a number on it?
No, well, we were saying that we are thinking about a competition which we then explain and disclose between 60 and 80 clubs. So we are thinking about more than 1 or 2 divisions, maybe 3 divisions. That's to be decided. And actually, it's always a proposal to clubs. So there will be an ultimate institutional body, a boardroom of 60 clubs who in the end decide whether or not our proposal is good or has to be adjusted. So yeah, we will not be jumping and presenting a competition, nor with 3, 5, 10 or 12 clubs. We want and we need more than 60 clubs in order to get this going.
But I don't mean the clubs in the hierarchy or the pyramid. I mean, how many clubs right now do you think are willing to engage with you?
Well, they are engaging. Dozens and dozens in clubs. Yeah, dozens and dozens, 50, 60 clubs I was speaking to. But of course, we are not putting a term sheet in front of their nose. We don't want anything. We don't want. Are you in? Are you out? This is not our current dialogue. Our dialogue is: are you agree with our assessment? Are you agree with our analysis that football is going in the wrong direction? do you agree that governance is not optimal and ideal for clubs in the competition? And do you think that that a better European league structure as a competition could benefit you on growing and staying competitive and retaining your talent? This is the dialogue we are having. And maybe from 21st of December on, our dialogue is, do you also interpret that we have a license to compete now? Do you agree that now you are free to decide your own future, and that you have, for the first time, can look at alternatives and don't have to fear that UEFA is sanctioning you for defending interests who are not congruent with the governing body?
We're almost out of time, but briefly, Juventus have said on record that they're exploring the possibility of withdrawing. Yeah. Have you still got hope that they will U-turn on that position, or do you expect them to walk away?
No, I expect everybody to really study and to look into the ruling, to see whether or not this is a triggering point for shaping a new football governance. And then I would hope that everybody is, and even big clubs of that size and of that prestige, that they're coming to the table and feel the responsibility to contribute to shaping this new future for clubs.
And then just finally, closing thoughts ahead of a really critical ruling on December the 21st.
I am optimistic. I do believe that the current system is not compatible with the fundamental freedoms of the European Union, and I think that we are not exclusive. We try to include everybody. We try to reach out to everybody and to shape and step up the level of the game and the power in governance clubs are actually having.
Great stuff, Bernd. I appreciate your candor.
Thank you.
Good luck on the 21st. Thanks for your time.
Thanks. Thank you.